Good day, class. Today, we're going to go over two parts in the book, chapter 3.4 and 4.2. Now, before we went on break, we learned a lot about the peasants, the knights and nobles, but we didn't talk about the kings, and that's what the beginning part of this section is about. The second part of this video is going to be about what's been happening in Mesoamerica, which would be in Mexico and South America. Okay, and so we're going to be talking about indigenous tribes and empires that grew during the time uh, from the beginning of the Greeks and Roman era up until now when the plague spread and things like that. Okay, so hopefully you have the paper to take your notes down, but if you don't, take down a sheet of paper and write down the notes as you have done before. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin. On the side of your paper, you will see a thing that says warm up, and this is the picture for it. Now, what you're supposed to do is first off analyze the picture. What do you see? Okay, so that's your first question. What do you see? So look through this picture. Again, we've done this in class before, so you guys should know how to do this. What do you see is going on in the picture? All right. Now, the second question in the warm-up is, what do you think is going on? Okay. So based off what you see, what do you think is going on? Be sure to write in complete and full sentences in order to get full credit. If you do not, you will not receive full credit and you will receive a grade that's worthy of what you've written down. Now, before we begin the notes, I would like to remind you that this is a video, so you can pause it at any time you want, or you can go back at any time you want. Okay, be sure you get down all the information that I am saying, and that's what's written down. Okay, so let's begin. Now, the very beginning of the Dark Ages, the people who controlled the land, they were the kings. And from their area, they would pass down the power to their children, usually their sons. Okay, now the thing was, at a certain point, somebody asked, who made this person king? And basically they said, you know what? God made them king. It was divine appointment. And the thing was, the king loved this because they could basically do whatever they wanted. You know, it's like if the king did something horrible to some people, well, you know what? It's okay because you know what? God made me the king. And why God did not put me here as a mistake. God doesn't make mistakes. Now you have to take in perspective the peasant's point of view. All they did was go to work and go to church. Okay? And to them, they could not say anything bad or think anything bad about God, right? Because all they had was their soul. And if they were to challenge God's ruling on earth, it was like horrible because then you might go to hell. And so when a king did something, it was like, well, this is God's will. And the kings loved this. They truly loved it. Now, the power was passed down, like I said, usually from father to son. But if a father did not have a son, usually it went to the daughter or to like a nephew, you know, or a cousin, things like that. But in order to kind of prevent it being passed down to other blood members, uh, alliances were made through marriage. So one king would say, hey, you have a daughter, I have a son, let's get them together, we'll have them marry, and then when we pass away, they will have this huge land, And then when they have kids, their kids will do as we did with them, and then their empire will be even bigger. But the thing was, these marriages were not the greatest because, again, they did not get married out of love. It was for property and power. Now, not every king was bad. There were a couple good kings. Um, there was Charlemagne. He was very, very popular. He was known as Charlemagne the Great, Charlemagne the Wise. He had a lot of great nicknames. Another good king was Richard the Lionheart. Okay, so if you've ever heard the story of Robin Hood, things like that, you will have heard of Richard the Lionheart. Now, on the flip side, there were some bad kings, and the opposite of Richard the Lionheart was his brother, King John. Now, again, if you've heard the story of Robin Hood, you'll know who King John is. Um, Another really bad king was this one called King Edward the First. His nickname was Longshanks because he was of his stature. He was a very tall and dominant man when he was in his youth. Even when he was older, he was very um, uh, intimidating. Now, the thing with him is he was cruel. He was a very, very cruel man, but he got things done. And it's through his cruelty and his ways of getting things done that got him the reputation of, hey, he's a man you don't mess with, but nobody liked him. Uh, if you ever seen the movie Braveheart, the old king man, that's the one right there, Edward the First. Again, now if you've seen this movie Braveheart, you'll have seen that his son, Edward the Second, was very much a wimp. And basically everything his father created, he let uh, disintegrate in his time. Because Edward II was not a very good king. He was not very strong, and he just let things happen. He didn't have a backbone, really. One thing you have to take into consideration is that what a king ruled over. Now, at the very beginning of the Dark Ages, a king's amount of land was usually very small, but through marriages and alliances, um, the kingdom would grow over time. So a king later on, in the later ages, would have a large kingdom. Now, the other thing the king ruled over were the armies, but the armies, were truly controlled by the nobles, and that's who the king had control over as well. The king appointed nobles lands and things like that, but if a noble tried to step up to the king could easily overrun him. But if the nobles got together, they could show their might and go against the king. But that was a problem because the thing is, a lot of the nobles only cared about themselves and not as a group as a whole. Okay. Now, the other thing the king ruled over were the peasants. Because again, if he has control over the nobles, he has control over the peasants or the serfs. Now, on June 15th, 1215, the Magna Carta was signed. Another name for the Magna Carta was the Great Charter. Now, King John, he loved his power, and he thought, hey, no one could tell me nothing. I'm the head honcho around here. I would like to see somebody try something. Well, that's the thing. The nobles actually got together and said, no, you're not controlling our armies no more. You're not controlling our peasants. You went too far and we've united, and if you try something, you're not going to win. And King Jong knew it. So he was forced to sign the Magna Carta, which basically limited the power of the king or queen. Now, there were 63 clauses or rules, if you want to go by that. If you boil the Magna Carta down to its essence, it basically meant that no one is above the law. Not the king, not a noble, not a peasant. Nobody is above the law. The other things that the clauses were talking about were mainly about rights, individual rights, justice, and trials. Now, individual rights, they were this Magna Carta basically was for the nobles. The rights weren't really for the peasants, but the thing was, um, future nations like the United States would look at the Magna Carta and say, hey, they had a great idea, but instead of limiting it to the wealthy or the topper people, upper people, let's give it to the all people. Now, the other thing was justice. Things were going to be done right, not just because the king said so or a noble said so, but because it was right. And the last thing was trials. Because back in the day, a king, if he didn't like something somebody said, like a noble or a peasant, mainly a peasant, they could hold them forever. Let them sit in the jail and rot. There was no, hey, they served their time, things like that. No, there was none of that. And the trials were made public. So people could see, hey, what's going on? Why is this person um, being arrested and charged or being going to be sent to jail? Okay. Now, you have to remember, this is at the time when the Catholic Church was huge because the peasants, all they did was go to work and go to church. And just the power got to this Pope named Gregory the Seventh. Now, Pope Gregory basically said that the Christian kings, their councilmen, their advisors, that one of them had to be appointed by the Pope. And that ticked off some of the kings. The one who really, really, really went up forward about this and argued was Henry the Fourth of Germany. And he was like, hey, 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 who are you to say what's going on in my kingdom? You know what? No, no. Because the thing is, he felt if the Pope put one person in, then later on he'd be like, well, maybe now two people, five people, whatever it may be, you know. And he would have like an insight on every kingdom, and that was just a no-go for a lot of the kings. So the church and a lot of kingdoms started to clash. Now, as I said, the church was huge. The thought of going to heaven and the power of the church was just at a climax. It was at top level at this point. But there was a thing called the Inquisition. And this really was in Spain, but it did branch out to other places. And basically, these people, um, they were like basically like priests and monks. They gathered up Jewish, Muslim, and even their own Christian and Catholic people because they were trying to convert the Jewish and Muslim people to being Catholic or Christian. And they would torture these people. They would do a lot of different tormenting um, treatment to these people. And one of the biggest things they did was, let's say a Jewish person said, yes, yes, okay, I will be a Christian. What they would do is, to be sure, they had this ritual that they had them perform, and then they would brand them, which basically meant they got this hot piece of metal and place it on the skin, and then remove it. And it would be a permanent mark on that person. And most majority of the time, that mark was the sign of the cross. Now, they did take some Christians and Catholics because somebody said they got word that, hey, this person is not living a pure and clean Catholic Christian life. So these priests and monk people would gather them and basically have them promise to live this clean Christian Catholic life. And they too would get the same treatment, right? Not all of them, but some of them.